The Nike Vomero 16 at 200 plus miles. Is it holding up as the distance running shoe we're looking for? Let's talk about it. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed and watching this content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. Specs for the shoe are right up here. So, I guess we'll start off with what the outsoles or the bottoms of the shoe look like at this point in time. I think I'm a little bit over 200 miles, maybe like 205 at this point in time. And it's been a little bit since I've run them since then. But yeah, we're just going to kind of show you what's going on both shoes. Of course, that's the left foot, and here's the right foot with all of its wondrous things going on. And I guess, of course, we'll take a look at the right foot first because this is the one that always has something interesting going on. So, as I've discussed before with the outsole and more or less this foam design that they have here, the Air Zoom pocket is located closer in this midfoot area, opposed to, I think, in the Pegasus 38, where it may have been a smidgen closer to the midfoot, and this is what was creating problems for me in the past personally. Now, you can kind of tell, I want to see if I can get a good angle of it, perhaps, maybe from here. You can see in this area where I've worn off a lot of the shoe, as I kind of usually do, the Air Zoom pocket is a little bit more up here, and you can probably push into it and sort of feel it. And basically it's off to the right side of my foot in this particular case. And I haven't like damaged the air pocket in any sort of way. I haven't necessarily broken it in a way where I'm losing any grip in the shoe. And as I've also probably discussed before, with the new area I live in and like the type of terrain I'm running in, there's a lot more hills and a lot more steep descents where the shoe's grip is really getting tested on the surfaces that I run on. So you can see that this tread pattern on the outer side of the outsole of the shoe is taking a little bit of a beat down, which is something I expect at 200 plus miles, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, which is huge props to the shoe in terms of its grip and its, I guess, overall longevity in the running process. So I haven't taken on too many rainy runs, but I imagine this strip of like, you know, this kind of a canal running through the shoe that separates the outsole here is probably going to be used to like filter water or funnel water through the shoe so it doesn't necessarily get stuck on the shoe and you like experience a slip or like a hydroplane per se. So that's kind of what's going on pretty well on this side of the shoe. That's like one of the big pros. So now one of the cons that's kind of coming up at this point in time was partially something I heard about previously because the shoe has a lot of fluff, a lot of puffy pieces to it. So like the tongue, for example, it's got like a lot of, you know, pillow-like material, but there isn't a lot of backing to it. So now what's happening at this point in time is when you're untying the shoe, retying it, and so forth, certain areas of the shoe start like kind of developing their own permanent cavities, I guess you can say, that are basically meshing to the foot. And what's happening in this case is when the upper tongue starts kind of doing this as well, each time you run in the shoe, you effectively have to start tying it a little bit more and more as you go along. Because what's happening in the middle of my runs is they are beginning to loosen just a little bit. And I guess that's kind of common for most shoes. But what happens is like the consequence of that is that my feet do begin to feel like they're kind of aching and straining in a way because now you have that added effect of when your foot comes off the ground, so does your foot from the shoe, and you're kind of bouncing in the shoe more or less when you're running. So this is kind of one of the cons of the tongue design ultimately, rather than being like a thin piece like it was in like the Vaporfly or like the Pegasus 37 and 38. This pillow here is going to be a bit of a challenge to work through. On the inside portion of it, it is kind of meshing a little bit more to like the upper area of my foot, but I do need to continue tying these down more and more as we go. And in some cases, the problem here is that as I'm running and, you know, in the middle of my run when my foot starts, you know, adjusting maybe like the blood flow, maybe there's like a pump in my foot or something like that, you have to probably stop and retie the shoe a certain way, probably a mile and a half in order to start feeling comfortable in the shoe once again. And it's pretty subtle, it's pretty noticeable, and it's more or less happening, I guess in this case, in the left foot than it is in the right. And this I think we've discussed in the past, that like the left foot, because when you're born, or you know, you're developing in the womb, I think your left foot is the first leg to develop, so it's a little bit more profound. It's just a smidgen bigger than your right foot, and that's kind of why you'll experience different sensations between the feet. Correct me if it's the left foot or the right foot. It's one of them, and I think it's the left foot. So basically, that's kind of one of the things, of course, I'm noticing with the Vomero is the lock is becoming a little bit kind of antsy. Now, in terms of speed, here's where the this is where one of the pros is, more or less, is that when running in this shoe, particularly on treadmills, yes, it is still quite loud, that is a con, but I can get up to some pretty good speeds on the treadmill as long as, you know, I can keep my cardiovascular in check and I'm not, like, you know, redlining myself in any sort of way. What's happening is I'm able to push like 5:30 to 5:15 pace in this shoe, and despite its noise, the shoe will keep up with me. Now, can I replicate the same results outside? It's to be determined. I still haven't done massive speed work outside yet, only because, you know, I'm still kind of coming off injury, and I'm not trying to push it too much. I'm just trying to keep it easy and just kind of roll into something, and more or less get a shoe that is, I guess you all know I already have the Magic Speed ASICS shoe, and that's kind of where I am right now, is kind of taking it easy, but also have a shoe that's going to help push the pace a little bit more. So I'm not running like 8:30 pace, it's more going to be like 7:15, 7:30 pace with a bit of additional boost from a carbon plate, opposed to no carbon plate in this shoe. So once I get back into those recovery and easy runs, I think that's going to be the move, is to get back into this shoe, because again, 200 plus miles, there's still plenty of life left in this shoe, and I still have to take it on something a little bit over a half marathon distance just to see how it feels as a long distance trainer. I know at about 9 to 10 miles, it's still pretty good. It hangs on very well. But you know, that last 5K in the half marathon, it's a very important distance in most cases, because it's arguably considered the halfway point of your half marathon. So that's kind of the caveat here, is if you were to do your half marathon in training, can this shoe last that final 5K before the end? So that's kind of one of the questions I'm going to answer before we hit 300 plus miles in this shoe, as I am now kind of ramping up my half marathon to marathon and triathlon Ironman training. So I think I'm going to end the video here. If you guys have any questions at this point in time, 200 plus miles in, definitely let me know in the comments below. But until then, you know, my overall summary is the shoe is still going very strong, minus a few of the cons with the lockdown, which I'll have to continue playing around with. But at this point, you know, we're still going strong, and the shoe isn't at a point where it's hurting me in any sort of major way. And of course, you know, we just keep going on. So that's all I've got for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.